Invokers, this is April, the artist behind InvokeArtSense. Today I bring you an unboxing, a smart art unboxing. I don't do these very often because they're not my favorite box to open, but I had to get this watercolor box. It's a watercolor brush pen or marker, water-based marker instead of your normal alcohol markers. And I have other Spectrum metallic markers that are water-based, and I just like Spectrum Noir. They're a good company. And also the Hannah Moulet paper is makes this box a great value, but I was expecting the rough version because that's what is pictured in their site. And they also gave me a different pencil, not the graphite aquarelle pencil. That's like the normal with wood. I guess they're all about the same, but that is still something I wasn't expecting. And then I found out they were out of stock of the graphite aquarelle pencil that they actually intended for the box. So I wish they had given me a note of some kind, and it did take a long time just to get this sorted out. But overall, it's still a great box. And the paper, I'm just so happy that it's a block. I've never had a watercolor paper like that before, so working with the block was really awesome. And these markers here, I mean, the watercolor, they blend beautifully, as you can see here. And also the graphic ink, Marabou graphics ink, I've always wanted to get those, and I've seen them in other boxes, and I'm glad that I got the three that it came with. And those are, I love working with inks because they're like watercolor, but then they dry and you can't rework them like watercolor. But that's actually a good thing, so your previous layer doesn't get lifted up. And that is dependent on your preference, but I do like that aspect of ink. And I am using my watercolor sketchbook here to do the swatches, and I'm also doing the little thumbnail of my idea. So I'm doing all of the 4 prompts: citrus, ice cream, standing, and flutter. So standing is just a standing position. That's all. I guess I could have done standing water, but I didn't do that. And ice cream is represents like I represented that with the ice cream cones. The citrus is like the citrus moon that's behind the unicorn. And then think yeah, citrus, ice cream, standing, and flutter. And flutter is the butterfly that you see. Well, flutter is the motion of flying, so that is how I represented that. And the little, oh, they did give me like the Royal Landnicker Aqua Flow brush 3-piece set. That's $6.49, which is way too much for the these. They're just not a good quality. But I did use them during this time, I think at the beginning of the actual piece. But I'm sorry, I'm not going to work against myself. And even the good ones, I don't even like. And these are not very good. So I just took out my own brushes. If that's cheating, oh well. I'm just going to, this is still a challenge for me, and that's my own opinion on that. So I'm not going to use these brushes, but I guess they're good to use if I want something quick like the thumbnail. And obviously the aquarelle. I love working with graphite, especially with water-based graphite like this. So, but I got the Monolith Aqua graphite pencil that is not even on the brochure. I mean, I guess it's basically the same thing, but without wood. But that's just something that wasn't expected. That was from their low stock. And the Harmony watercolor paper, I wish I had gotten the rough paper because I don't have any of that kind of paper. And that is what is pictured on their website. But the cold press is still a good paper. And I worked on this and did a lot of layers, and it held up really well. But of course, I gave it drying time. I worked on other areas as I went on. I was thinking of an ice cream cotton candy color. That's where the colors from the mane and tail came from. The pinks, yellows, greens, I didn't have any blue. I wish I had some blue in this palette, but there's no blue at all. So I just had to stick to basically 3, maybe a little bit of purple later on. And the orange was really simple. I used the graphics inks mostly. Later I used some of the orange that was in the marker set to give like the line detail. Now the good thing about these markers, they have a fine tip that is a plastic nib, and that really you can do your line art with those, and which I did. But I also did the line art, with my brushes, and I really feel like just because they're markers, I don't only have to use them as a marker. As you can see, I use them as a marker, and then I use my brush as well with some water. Later on in my piece, I use my palette to, like, I put the marker color directly on the palette, and I take my brush, take the color directly from the palette to have a softer look and more of a watercolorly effect. And the ice cream cones, they don't have ice cream. I just wanted a plain, simple cone, and I hope that translates in the piece. But I really, really like how the graphite looks for the unicorn. Like, white isn't completely white, right? So if I did have some blue or something, I could, make shadows with the blue, and I can even make shadows with the purple. But using the graphite, I have like the impression of a white unicorn, and that's what I did. I didn't use graphite anywhere else in the piece, just on the unicorn's body. And I used a lot of yellow in the mane because I wanted the mane to look bright and happy. And you should also notice that I used washi tape around the border, and that just cuts the border a little bit. I took my X-Acto knife in the beginning and I cut out some of the things like the feet, the ends of the hair strands, and the citrus moon, just to have those pieces break out of the border when I'm done. So it'll have a solid border on just the other parts. I used purple for the background because I thought it gave the piece more contrast, and my thumbnail, it changed a little bit, but the colors were mostly the same, and the cones have this palette has mostly purples, reds, yellows, and greens, and the cone started off like a magenta, and the graphics, the Carmine red is a really, really pretty color. When you thin it out some more, it looks pink. When it's a little bit thicker, it's almost red. I used the sunshine yellow from the graphics on the butterfly as well, and in some parts of the mane in the tail. And then I went and did a lot of line art with the graphics for the butterfly. And of course, I think if I used the brushes that came with this, I wouldn't have been able to get as much detail for my line art in this way. And that's fine if that's what you would do with this box. But I would rather use my brushes. And the problem with the Royal Landnicker brush, the water brushes, the first one I used, the medium, that worked fine. I never used the large. The smallest one, the water was just pouring out of it. And they're just not high enough quality, I think. And I think that they could have included just one brush. But that's just my opinion on that. But overall, I think that this box is a good box. And one good thing about Smart Art is that you get a full set. So in this case, I got the full set, the 12-piece marker set. And versus like something like Art Snacks where you just get a few of a color. Like I remember the watercolor brush pins, I only got 4 of those. But in this case, I don't always like getting a full set because I want to work with a limited palette to challenge myself more. So this was a wide variety of pastel colors, and I believe I used all of the markers, maybe minus a few. I think there was a few I didn't use. There was one that was like a nature kind of olive green. I didn't use that because I wanted a pastel palette mostly. And I used some, I think, wildflower, the darkest like purple on the eyes, because I wanted to, I didn't use a graphite just because I wanted a little bit more intense quality, more smoother look to the eye. And I went with the graphite pencil over here. I almost thought about using a different color from the marker set to do the line art here, but I wanted to stick to the white unicorn look, and I used just the pencil for this. And the only thing that wasn't, graphite for the unicorn's body was the eyes and the nostril and the horn. The horn was, I did a line art with orchid, and that's kind of a magenta, and then I went back with some yellow jasmine for the unicorn horn. And the reason why I lined it here is because it needed to get a little bit more tight, and a little bit more details, and a little bit more shadows too. And I am shadowing some areas of the unicorn with the graphite. Again, I just take it, scribble a little bit, and then I take my water brush and smooth it out. And the graphite process is very meditative. And there was a sketch box with liquid pencil, and that was a fun box. I do love color, but Aquarelle pencils, especially those graphite pencils, they're just so fun. And I like graphite. I used to do a lot of graphite drawings. But using graphite in this way, where you mix it with watercolor markers, is an awesome creative thing to do, because you have color, but you have something else too that gives your piece more interest. And I am almost finished with this piece. Not quite. There's the little things I need to work on still, but I'm really not doing a lot of details. I'm still trying to keep things simple. But my brush here, I'm just trying to give some eyelashes, but and some eyeshadow, which is like that purple from the background. And the watercolor fine nib part, the plastic nib, makes it really easy to get line art here. I got the eyebrow there going on. And I am lining the mane, giving the strands, separating some strands, and giving the impression that they're strands. And it gives it a little bit more detail that way. And I take my brush and with water and just slightly run over that, and it just softens it up a little bit more. And I did the same thing with the cones, with the orchid color. I did use the marigold from the marker set. The marigold is a good color. On the orange here, I used the marigold for the details with the inner part of the orange. And that was good there, but it was not pastel-y enough to use in other spots besides the cone and the orange. And what are your thoughts about this box? Do you think this box is a great box? I am not going to be getting Smart Art box in the future, or maybe not very often. I will be doing art snacks like I have been doing, and I believe I have a sketch box. I do have a sketch box next month, but there may be other Smart Art boxes I do, but I get them as a previous box. I don't want to subscribe to them just because I don't like the whole crafting aspect that they do occasionally, or I don't know how often they send it out. But I got a marbling box and I didn't enjoy that. I did do it with my friend, but I didn't make a video. And I know that they had a fabric painting box once, and I didn't get that because I wasn't subscribed yet, but I just don't want to just get something like that. So I do just build up my Peacock points, which is a great system, and just get the box if I see something I really would enjoy, like this box. I just wish Smart Art would not send out stuff that's not in the brochure. Maybe it's just because of the world right now, or maybe they were just really sold out. That it could be the case. And the Harmony paper, they have only the rough paper pictured, and that's what I think. I've only seen other people get the rough paper. They should, I don't know, not just picture the rough paper when they're trying to promote their box. But it's still a good box, and I will really use this paper more than any other paper, I think, because it's on a block. When I was painting, it did warp a little bit, but I didn't use a lot of water. I wasn't going crazy, and every time it would, like warp a little bit, like watercolor paper does, it flattens itself out because it's on a block, and it made it very easy for me to take a picture after I was done because since it has that border too, I don't scan my pieces. I take a picture and then I take it through Photoshop to crop it and do minor adjustments. But since I have a big light box, I don't have to do a lot of that. And see, I am using this paintbrush. It has that type of end on the end. You can use your palette knife, but this was actually a really good way to take the paper off of the block. And then I'm finished. That was a very, very, very good part of this video. This was the best part of making this, was taking it off the block. It felt really good, and I really, really will be using these markers more often, frequently. I won't be doing as many unboxings, so I will just be creating like whatever from watercolor or watercolor markers or whatever I have. But I do like to occasionally still do unboxings like this, and it looks like, it's flat, when I took it off. It's not, I don't have to do anything to flatten it like normal when it's just, taking it off of a pad. It makes less work for me, because normally I would have to flatten it out for a while, then take a picture, but I don't have to do that, and it's really flat this way. And this is available on my Etsy at www.etsy.com/shop/InvokeArtSense shop. And I will probably do art prints of this as well, but we will see. And thank you for watching this video. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and see you next time for the next exciting video, Invokers. Goodbye, everyone.